Hey, bonjour mes amis, bonjour, ça va? J'espère que vous êtes très bien. Hello my friends, how are we all today? Hope everybody's well and that. Thought I'd do another video review, and this time I have the 2020 model Suzuki Swift Sport. This has got the 1.4 litre turbo engine delivering 103 kilowatts of power and 230 Newton meters of torque. Yeah, so this has a 1.4 litre 3-cylinder turbo engine, and it comes with a 6-speed manual gearbox. So let's take a look. Has keyless entry, six-speed manual gearbox, sport seats which seem to be pretty good, although the bolsters are quite tight, but still quite supportive nonetheless. Surprisingly, I could sit behind my own driving position in this with room to spare. Lots of leg room. Have a look. Look how much space. There we go, see? There you go, there's me, there's my legs in relation to the driver's seat back. Obviously getting three adult passengers across the back seat would be a bit of a squeeze. The second person back here would be alright. It goes back to the old saying, of two's company, three's a crowd. Yeah, so let's have a look at the dash area. There we are. Let's continue. A lot of hard plastics abound though, as you can see, all the scratchy plastics, IS, industrial strength plastics, but they'll last the life of the car nonetheless. And this is where the door opening handle is for the rear doors, right amongst the C-pillar. Catch offers reasonable space. Let's have a look. Suspension is via a torsion beam rear axle. Adequate boot space. I don't think it's only about 260 litres or thereabouts, so it's not exactly big, but it's adequate. But it doesn't have a space saver spare, it only has tyre inflator available. Maybe you could fit provision for a spare with the bloody wheel bolt mounting there. Boot mat does look a little bit cheap though. I mean, you can see how well fitting it is around the corners and that, and if you pull this up, you can see where the carpet for the rear seat backs just flaps straight over, like so. But it does the job, it'd last well. Okay, so put that back on there. Let's have a look, try and get that back on. There we are. Same. Yes, there are a lot of cheap plastics used in the dashboard construction, and that all cheap IS plastics, but that doesn't affect the car nonetheless. Power windows all round, automatic climate control. Bonnet. Yes, you can see you've got traction control switch here, traction control off on, has a gamut of features like lane departure warning and those sorts of things, radar cruise control, parking sensors, lane departure warning and forward collision warning, which you can turn off. And this is the 1.4 litre 3-cylinder turbo booster jet engine, which produces the aforementioned 103 kilowatts of power and 230 Newton meters of torque. Here it is. time to take it for a drive and see how it goes. Okay, let's see how it goes. Nice cool air conditioning. The auto climate control seems to be doing an okay job. It's very reasonable, despite the fact that it's 36 degrees outside, near about 97, 98 Fahrenheit. See how it goes. Turn that down. If there's a downside, it's at the end of the day, there's no volume control for the actual stereo unit, so it's only just operated by touch. I'm not really a big fan of that, but the volume control toggle on the steering wheel seems a lot better. Let's have a look. Yep, seatbelt, B-pillar belt anchor adjusters for driver and front passenger. Featherweight clutch, brakes, and throttle. Good for heel toe down changes, which we've experienced so far. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Fourth, third, second, first. There's a lift up sleeve for to engage reverse gear. And that's the view of the reversing camera. Right there, you might not be able to see it that well, but it only gives a limited view at best. But yeah, see how it goes. Okay, away we go. Lock the doors. Very easy car to drive. When the turbo starts to come on song, it really comes into its own. If there's a little black mark to the ergonomics, is in these two air vents up here, which are a little bit far away from the driver, even though I've got the seat set in the correct position. Good for heel toe down changes, the clutch and throttle, the brake and throttle spacing. Traced. It's got a rev limiter of just over 6 grand. It feels like 60, looks like 60, 6200, 61, 6200 RPM. So there's really no, it really starts to peter out when you get towards 6000 RPM. So as I said before, the rev limiter at 61, 6200, despite the red line being indicated at 6300 odd RPM. Makes for nice drivability though with that instant turbo torque when it comes on boost. It sets on 2900 RPM at 110 kilometres an hour in 6th gear. This car also runs on premium unleaded petrol, minimum of 95 RON or 91 pump octane in USA and Canada. Easy to use the gearbox and match your revs. At 6100 RPM is where the rev limiter comes in. I thought it would have held at least all the way to 6.3 or beyond when the rev limiter would kick in, but not so. If we turn the HVAC fan down for a bit and see what the noise level's like. Yeah, you do get a bit of road noise even though we're on smooth tarmac at the moment. But even so, it's still quite a pleasant place to be. It's a good car to drive actually, and so far the steering's got a little bit of feel in that, so you know what the front wheels are doing. Obviously, the real acid test is to really go on some decent roads. Decent roads to exercise the chassis. Like I said before, down here you've got the traction control off switch. Just hold down for about 4 or 5 seconds, and everything, as you can see from in the actual instrument cluster, all the icons they've all illuminated, suggesting that everything's deactivated. That's the full collision warning. That's the lane keep assist, and the traction control. Check. Easy to heel toe, even naked. Very easy to heel toe your way down through the box. Bit of traffic. Have a bit of a look around and see. least there's some action from the rear end anyway. You make it oversteer with lift off oversteer, which makes it a bit playful. But you notice that when I was accelerating out anyway, there was a little bit of there was a fair bit of traction loss. So maybe a limited slip diff would probably fix that. Go down the second. Just continue through here. Just go for a little bit of a drive. Very easy to use gearbox. Featherweight clutch, which is quite progressive. But for a small front-wheel drive hatchback, the handling thus far seems to be all right. It's quite agreeable. Again. Even lugging around 65, 66k an hour in top gear at 1700 odd RPM seems to be plenty of torque, so makes for very good drivability, even in round town situations. And very easy to move off the line. Gear shift's precise enough anyway for a front-wheel drive transaxle. A little bit of clunkiness in the shift quality and that, but even so, it's still quite within the realms of acceptable. And as I said before, even though temperature's up to 37 degrees, about 98 Fahrenheit, the climate control's still doing not too bad a job. But it is about 80–90% humidity out there, might even be up to 100. It's out there's too thick to drink and too thin to chew. That's quite a surprising little car to drive, this. It really is surprisingly good. Only downside though, to buy one of these brand new is about 32,000 to 33,000 Australian dollars for this particular specification. So it is on the pricey side for what is essentially a micro to small car. But there is some dynamic prowess to the handling and that, which makes it good. It is quite an engaging and involving car to drive, it really is. Had $30,000 to spend or thereabouts, you can't go wrong buying one of these by the seams of things anyway. Drivability is very good. Gauges are very easy to read, they're nice and legible. That'd probably be the only small dynamic black markers, the lack of traction on the inside front wheel, lack of traction for the inside front wheel. So limited slip diff would fix that. Notice it when you're accelerating away from the apex of a corner, and that was a reasonably sharp left-hander. So when you want to put power down to widen your line of widen your line from the apex of a corner, you get that bit of wheel spin coming out. Not too bad, I must say. Not too bad. Quite surprising. See that right there? It's not a bad understeer or anything like that. Just lacks a little bit of traction for the inside front wheel when cornering. No, very good handling and nicely throttle adjustable. Really nice. I've got to say, I'm quite impressed. Handbrake's easy to use in a sea of cars which have electric parking brakes these days. That wasn't a bad drive, that. I was quite impressed. The handling is much better than I expected, but like I did highlight a couple of times, it could do with a limited slip diff, mainly because of that inside front wheel spinning when you want traction, when you want to widen your line from the apex of a corner, and that's about the only thing. Where's all the comprehensive switches here? Auto down and up on the drivers. Yep, it all works. Auto down, auto up. Yeah, and the rest are just standard as such. You just hold the switch down to wherever you want the window to stop, and then release, and vice versa. Folding mirrors, electric folding mirrors, which are heated as well. Look at that, heated, and they also have lane keeping, not lane keeping assist, sorry, blind spot detection, as you can see, blind spot detection on each one. So back out again we go. All right, start stop button that's highlighted. Alright, yeah, that wasn't too bad a drive, that. Yeah, I'm quite impressed. Yeah, quite impressed for what this little car has to offer. It's a shame people don't want to buy manual transmissions these days. This is actually quite a good manual transmission to use. Like I said, it is a little bit on the clunky side, but not grossly so. Still very precise despite the slightly clunky feel. Progressive clutch, brake and throttle pedals, which are ideally spaced for heel towing and that. Throttle adjustable handling. What's not to like? There you go. Okay, I mentioned before about the central face level air vents being a little bit too far away from the driver, but hey, small beer really, isn't it? Anyways, that's my review of the 2020 model Suzuki Swift 1.4 litre turbo with 6-speed manual gearbox, and I hope you liked it all. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. So pour maintenant, au revoir, bonne journée, peace out, laters.